And I need you to hear it, and I need you to comment. Here it is.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Well, Ann?
Well, speaking as a black person, of course, I'm totally offended. I will partially defend him, but I think it shows something much uglier. And that is, yeah, of course, he was joking. I mean, someone like you or I could say, if you're not voting Republican, you're not a Christian, or, I don't know, you're not a white male. You could say that in a joking way. Yeah, totally with him there. I don't think he meant that seriously, but it illustrates something really ugly that the Democratic Party is doing to the country and doing to politics. This is how they get votes. That's why we have to go through these crazy, hoax, racist attacks every election year, like Ferguson, or approaching election years, Ferguson and Trayvon Martin, leading to the slaughter, the assassination of 5 cops in Dallas, 3 in Baton Rouge, 2 in New York City that year. No, they play this game of ginning up basically everyone except white men in America, the one group that consistently votes for majority Republican. In fact, no other ethnic group other than whites majority votes Republican at any place, any time. But they go after the women too. That's why I say white men in particular. We're already, I would say, we're well past dipping our toe into this, but I just think this is going to get worse and worse and worse. It was what among the immigration restrictionists, a famous quote came from the former president of Singapore. I'm paraphrasing, but he said, "No, we're putting a total block on immigration because in a multi-ethnic society, people stop voting their economic interests, they stop voting their social interests, they vote their ethnic group, and that's what the Democratic Party." That is the raison d'etre of the Democratic
Party. It's their strategy. They openly talk. That's the thing. This isn't hidden. How many times do we have to watch the coverage of primary night and have these very well-paid liberal Democrat pundits say, well, he really needs to solidify the black vote. I mean, they use the term the black vote.
Right.
And basically, it's the same thing that Biden said here. I mean, if you're not black, if you're not voting for me, you ain't really authentically black.
Yes.
Ain't. Yes. Although I do want you to dwell a little bit on the use of ain't here. He picked it up in the mean streets of Scranton. Is that where he picked up ain't?
Oh, yeah, there's nothing funnier than when Hillary and Biden start trying to do their black doggerel.
Yes, exactly. If only he had enough time in that interview, he could pull out his bottle of hot sauce that I'm sure he carries with him.
I'd forgotten about that.
It was the same interviewer, but it was the same radio show where she did the hot sauce thing.
Oh, we should insist that all Democrats running for president get interviewed on that radio show.
Meanwhile, to keep it in the racial theme here, and you have discovered that finally Democrats are going to get serious about the coronavirus because it's no longer a Chinese virus; it's a European virus.
Yes.
This is a great column, as usual.
Thank you. I would have let it go. Other people noticed that Governor Cuomo started neurotically referring to the coronavirus as this European virus, except he wouldn't let it go. I quoted from a single press conference where he called it the European virus, or this virus from Europe, and well, we got this from Europe, and well, when Europeans came here, and and he said it like 100 times. Yeah. Because what I thought first, I was just going to say, please blame it on white people. That's what we've been waiting for. Yeah. And I'm just going to move on to the next point of my column. And I realized not everyone is part of the cognoscenti. They may not know what I'm talking about. And so I went through actually some of what I was talking about at the beginning with Biden's comment. How this is the essence of the Democratic Party, this identity politics and hating white people, hating traditional white America. That's how they keep them all together. All all their ethnic groups, because why, in theory, would, well, take an obvious example. Why would African Americans, long-time African Americans, be standing arm in arm with illegal aliens? Right. No, they're taking your jobs, they're taking your benefits, they're taking your position in the Democratic Party. It doesn't make any sense. But all of the different different ethnic groups, which is basically every ethnic group except white, what keeps them together is you must concentrate on hating white people. One of the weirdest examples of that, speaking of Miss Hot Sauce, was Hillary's insistence on she kept saying this thing about how, Donald Trump's fondness for white dictators around there. And you sit back and think, okay, who is that? There are a lot of dictators in Asia, a lot throughout the Middle East. Africa has no shortage of dictators. Who are these? All these white? No, white is just an evil intensifier. It's a verbal MSG. It makes it worse if you throw in white. Something. And why did they pick Russia? I mean, we all now know that the Russia collusion story was completely imaginary. They could have picked any country in the world. Why not North Korea? Right. Why not Syria? No, those are beige people. Yeah. We want a white dictator. We're going with Putin.
By the way, North Korea would have been more believable because there's a very short connection between North Korea, Dennis Rodman, and Celebrity Apprentice. I mean, I could have totally seen how that collusion thing was hatched. And Coulter, I've got to get you to comment on this because this is breaking as we talk. The Biden campaign sent out Simone Sanders, African-American political consultant. She put out the first statement hours after Biden's comments, and she said it was in jest. It was a joke. He was just joking. Well, now apparently that's no longer operable because Biden himself has apologized. I want to read what he said. He said, "I should not have been so cavalier. I've never, ever taken the African-American community for granted." So now Biden has apologized, and meanwhile he hangs his spokesperson out to dry with a false apology.
Well, also I've never taken the black community for granted. Are you kidding me? The Democrats take the black community for granted 24/7. And why shouldn't they? They get 90% of the black vote. I noticed this during the primaries because, as you know, my entertainment is watching MSNBC, and I would hear once every 6 minutes, well, the black vote's not monolithic. Nope, not monolithic. I've never seen such a monolithic vote.
I wish it weren't so monolithic.
The Democrats is getting 90% of the black vote, which is why the Democrats 100% take black voters for granted.
And Coulter, you have a great weekend. Enjoy your Memorial Day as much as you can under these provisions, but hopefully things are loosening up where you are.
Yes, you too.
We're all moving to Florida, right? Is that the plan? I mean, for crying out loud, they finally got something right down there. Florida man isn't so crazy. Yes. Thank you, Ann.
Bye-bye.
We will make America great again.